All right, went over 1 and 2 yesterday, so hopefully that was straightforward. You remember that flow chart we went over in algebra? Some of you don't have me for algebra, so sorry if you are not. But remember that flow chart we went through for factoring? What was always the first step? Check for a GCF first. So really you should be doing that each time. I didn't say it for 1 or 2 because I knew there was no GCF. But really, you should just be in the habit of checking for that each time. So in number 3, is there a GCF between 2, 2, and 24? What is it? So then that means from each of them, I'm going to factor out a 2. Can I factor out any 8s? No. No, so just a 2 on this one. So divide each one by 2. This will be on your unit test as well, the GCF part, so, you know, do that. I always like to scan to see if there's anything that cancels. So like these 2's cancel, and so do these 2's. So then I just have a squared plus a, and then what's negative 24 divided by 2. All right, so first step, factor out a GCF. Question, so you're a little confused. No. So first step, factor out a GCF. And then once you've done that, look at just the parentheses, like what's inside. See if that is factorable anymore. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So since in the parentheses is a trinomial, I'm going to use the diamond method. So A times B on top, B on the bottom. What's going to be the top of my diamond for this one? Negative 12. All right, what would go on top of my diamond for this one? A times C, we're only looking at the highlighted part. Negative 12. What is my B? It is 1. What are 2 numbers that multiply to negative 12 but add to what? And which one would have to be negative to make it work? The 3. So then this becomes a little bit out of room, but it becomes where the GCF is still there on the outside, and my parentheses are now A plus 4 and A minus 3. So that's the answer for number 3. Questions on that? See if I can. Okay. All right, so then number 4, same process, check for a GCF first. Is there a GCF between 4, 24, and 20? What is it? 4. So always see if the smallest number is divisible into the others, and then it is. So 2 is not the greatest common factor. We want the greatest one. So then my GCF is 4, that'll go on the outside. Can I factor out any p's? No, so then just divide each term by your GCF, which is 4. Only these 4's right there cancel. So then it becomes p squared. What's negative 24p divided by 4? Negative 6p. And 20 divided by 4? A positive 5. All right, now check your parentheses. See if that's factorable. It's a trinomial, so I'm going to try with the diamond method. 5 would go on top, negative 6 would go on the bottom. What multiplies to 5 but adds to negative 6? There's only 2 numbers that multiply to 5, so 5 and 1. If they add to a negative, then they both must be negative. So then GCF still stays around, but now my parentheses are p minus 1 and p minus 5. Questions on that? Okay, So, I mean, in algebra, we have talked about the method I'm about to show you, but I do think we need more practice with it. So that's why we're kind of doing it in MATLAB too. All right. So up until this point, the only way you would have known how to factor would have been like when A is not 1, would have been by GCF. Now we're going to see like when there's no GCF, or maybe we already factored out a GCF and A is still not 1. We just have a few extra steps essentially. So kind of make a note over here, A is not going to be equal to 1 in this lesson. All right, here's some steps you could follow. They call it the slip and slide method. There's lots of different names for it. So what they're saying is that we're going to slip A to the end of the trinomial and multiply by C. That's what we were doing before anyway. The top of the diamond was always A times C. It's just that since A was 1 in all of those examples, it didn't really make a difference. Okay, so flip A to the end of the trinomial and multiply by C. Factor this new basic trinomial. I would say using the diamond method. So A times C over B. Just multiply to the top, add to the bottom. Step 3 says divide both of your factors by the value you slip over in step 1. So you're dividing by A. So from both of your factors. And then step 4, you're going to reduce the fractions or simplify. And then slide any denominators up next to the variable and then distribute to check. If you have me for algebra, we've already done this. We just need more practice, I think. Okay, so that's what we'll do in these notes. Questions on the steps? All right, so still, example 1, check for a GCF. Is there a GCF between 2, 5, and 3? No, and do they all have X's? So then you just see if it's factorable another way. It's a trinomial, so I'm going to use my diamond method. Top is A times C, bottom is B. This time there's an actual number for A, that is not 1. So what's 2 times 3? And then what number is in my B position? What multiplies to 6 that adds to 5? Good. 3 times 2 makes it work, and then it also adds to 5. So far what I have is this. But since A was not 1, I'm not finished because X times X, is that 2X squared? No, it's just 1X squared. So that's why you're not finished after that. You have to continue with the next step, which is divide by A from your factors. What was my A? It was 2. The value you slipped over, slip and slide, whatever. Slide and divide. Divide 2 from each of your factors. And then reduce the fractions. So like 3 over 2 doesn't reduce anymore. You definitely don't want a decimal. Over here, 2 over 2 simplifies to what? To 1. So my second parentheses are going to be X plus 1. That worked out nicely. And then step 4 says any remaining denominators, you're going to slide in front of the variable. So then this parentheses is now 2x plus 3. And then now when I FOIL, I usually don't check every answer, but if I was taking a test and I wanted to check my answers or had time to, I would. But now when I FOIL, I get 2x squared plus 2x plus 3x plus 1. And then when I combine my terms, I do get my original problem. Questions on that? Okay. Are you ready to try one or? Okay, another one. I'll do example 3. So then scrolling down a little bit, follow the steps that are on your paper. So we'll also just always check for a GCF first. Is there a GCF between 6, 5, and 4? Do they all have Y's? So no GCF in this example. So then factor it. Only way I know how to factor a trinomial is the diamond method. So A times C on top, B on the bottom. What is 6 times -4? So that's going to be my AC. 6 times -4. What's my B? I like that they use 24 because that has a lot of numbers that multiply to 24. Only 2 of them will make the diamond work though. So what are some numbers that multiply to 24? Okay, 6 and 4. One of them would have to be negative if it multiplies to a negative. There's no way I could do that and get -5 when I add. So what are some other numbers that multiply to 24? 8 times 3, could that maybe give me -5? So then let's try that. Which one would have to be negative? D8. Because if it adds to a negative, that means the negative's on the bigger number. So then this is what I have so far. Oh, and I should probably use Y because that's what the letter is. So sorry. But yeah, Y minus 8, Y plus 3. Based on my diamond. But if I were to stop now, that would not give me the original problem. So that's why you have to do the other steps. What's the next step? Divide by your A. Divide by whatever you had to slide. Slide and divide. All right, reduce the fractions as much as you can. Don't give me any decimals. What does 8/6 reduce to? What did you say? Okay, good. I'll show you a shortcut in a second if you're struggling with that. And then 3/6 reduces to 1/2. So we reduce the fraction, any remaining denominators, you need to slide now in front of the variable. And that's what will make your FOILing give you the answer if you actually find it. So it becomes 3y minus 4 and 2y plus 1. Sit on that one. Okay. If you are not good with simplifying fractions, what you could do is just type it into Desmos, and really almost all calculators have this function. It's like a fraction to decimal button. So go to Desmos. For example, we had to reduce 8/6. So 8 division sign 6. This button here where my mouse is your fraction to decimal button. Go back and forth, back and forth. That's my simplified fraction. Good? So no excuses. Don't be lazy. If you need Desmos, use it. Can you guys try 2 and 4? And really, if that goes well, then those will be the only examples we do. Okay, so try 2 and 4. I'll leave it on this screen. Yes? Here is the solution with work shown, and I will explain. And yes, you could have it with the 5n minus 2 first, and then the n minus 3. But that is how you do it. So check for a GCF. There is not one in example 2. Then factor it using the diamond method is how I think it's easiest. So what's 5 times 6? 30, so that's my A times C, that goes on top. What's my B? Negative 17. The fact that more people aren't saying that kind of concerns me, but it's based off of standard form. Like B is always in front of the variable to the first power. So there you go. What are two numbers that multiply to 30 but add to negative 17? Good. Anyone disagree with that? If you thought 6 and 5, well, there's no way to play around with that to get negative 17. So find me ones that work. And then write it as factors. So right here is where it's minus 15 and minus 2 because they were both negative in the diamond. Since A was not 1, that's where you have to add those steps. So whatever A was, we're now dividing by A in that step. What's 15 divided by 5? 3. And the minus, I just kind of kept it there. So yes, it is negative 3. And then 2 over 5 doesn't simplify anymore. So then that's when you slide it in front of the n, like that. Questions on example 2? All right, then example 4. There's no GCF in that one. Do your A times C. What's 12 times negative 5? And my B is, no, that's my C. 11. What multiplies to 60 or negative 60 but adds to 11? All right, that one I would think is a bit more challenging, but once you go through all the things that multiply to 60, this does work. And to kind of help me with that, I would do 60 divided by 2 and see like, okay, that doesn't work. 60 divided by 3, 60 divided by 4 until I find something that could possibly give me an 11 when I add or subtract. Which one has to be negative since it's a positive 11? So then write it as we have been, but then since A was not 1, you have to divide by A down here. Reduce the fractions. What goes into 15 and 12? Table 2, can you stop talking? What goes into 15 and 12? Or just put in Desmos. What does it simplify to? Okay, well, then do it yourself.